You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
Welcome to another corporate events coverage, and this time around, BATV is on location at the Bank of Jamaica Auditorium, ready to bring you highlights from day one of the two-day conference dubbed A Call to Action, Driving Financial Inclusion with Digital Payments. I'm Javon Keys, and I'll be your host. Stay with us.
The DBJ is really proud to be associated with this event, with a focus that we have on driving the economy by looking at the role that we all have to play in championing Jamaica through each of our line of businesses, each sector, and each person. It is indeed appropriate, I think, that the theme of this conference is a call to action. Each representative in this room was not invited by coincidence. It was by assessing the vision that as to where we are, where we need to be, and who are the instrumental players needed to help us in this journey. And so it makes sense that the DBJ and the Bank of Jamaica would collaborate in this area. The DBJ, as most of you probably know, is mandated to provide opportunities for all Jamaicans, regardless of their social status, to improve the quality of their lives through developmental financing. The Bank of Jamaica is responsible for creating and managing the monetary policy that affects every Jamaican and every financial institution in the country. Therefore, coming together to hold a conference on financial inclusion and digital payments we see as a logical development of our relationship with the BOJ. But why is financial inclusion so important and digital payments that it merits a two-day conference? I believe it is important because when you look at the world's poor, including many Jamaicans, they live and work in what is known as the informal economy. Yet even though they have very little money, they still manage to save, borrow, and meet their day-to-day expenses. However, without access to the formal financial system that allows savings account, debit card, insurances, lines of credit, they rely instead on informal means of managing money. And these include, as we all know, family, friends, cash on hand, pawnbrokers, money lenders, or simply keeping it under the mattress. But, as we all know, these choices are almost always inefficient, risky, and expensive. And therefore, we encourage those who are regarded as the unbanked to become a part of the formal financial system, as it will provide benefits to the individual as well as on a national level. Simply put, we become part of something that is so much bigger.
My presentation this morning focused on financial inclusion, which really, and in particular, how do we get that significant section of our economy that is unbanked into the formal financial system. A significant part of our economy, of the persons who contribute to our economy, are still in the informal sector. We need to get them into the formal sector so they can access the benefits that would come with being a part of the formal financial system. So our role really is to encourage them, to educate them, to show them the benefits that can be derived from being a part of the formal sector. And in so doing, utilize the payment mechanisms that is going to be discussed here today. For example, the whole matter of mobile payments, digital payments, and other benefits that they would derive from coming into the formal financial system.
We are convinced that through this conference we can begin to build awareness and continue the conversation about the issues and challenges that must be resolved as we strive to develop and provide payment products and services to satisfy the needs of the average Jamaican consumer. We also see the need for tailored financial literacy programs that are integral to Jamaica's transition to the status of a digital economy. Over the next 2 days, we will engage in vibrant discussions on how innovations in electronic retail payments can impact Jamaica's development and how regulation can foster innovation. We will take an in-depth look at the risks and opportunities associated with digital payments and, most importantly, discuss how public-private partnerships can create a sustainable ERPS ecosystem. We will hear from our authorized ERPS issuers, their experience with electronic retail payments. We will also hear from a micro entrepreneur on how electronic payments can help to grow his business. It is anticipated that arising from these discussions, we will all have a renewed commitment to the development of the ecosystem to promote the use of digital products and to unlock the potential economic benefits associated with increased digitization of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the conference open and with the wish that our deliberations will be fruitful. Thank you very much.
Driving financial inclusion through digital payments, that's what we're about today. The idea is to bring the regulators, the facilitators, along with some of the business partners into the discussion. And coming out of the dialogue today, hopefully we'll have a clear idea as to some of the challenges that are being faced by the various stakeholders. And we here at the Bank of Jamaica, we're about fashioning regulatory strategies to enable business, enable the growth and development of the financial sector. And we think that through engagement of our stakeholders, we will get certain insights which will assist us in discharging our responsibilities as a higher level of effectiveness. Well, the second day is going to be a little more of the same, but looking at perspectives of different stakeholder groups. Tomorrow what we want to do is pay a little bit more attention to some of the options, the opportunities that are available as we seek to unlock the growth potential in the sector. I think the major challenge that we face is designing products and services that satisfy the needs of the average consumer. And I think that has to be an area of focus for us. I'm not convinced that the taxi operator, for example, has the products and services that he needs to be more efficient and to reduce his cost. I'm not convinced. And I think that there are opportunities for us to, better serve the needs of consumers such as the taxi operator. And I'm hoping that coming out of the discussions over the next 2 days, that we'll be exploring those, issues.
And on that note, we go to a break. Stay with us. Much more after this.
There's only one recommendation for funding that is ever going to come from me, and that is funding from a bank.
This is the cost to build, and it includes every nail and screw for the building.
Our motto is building communities, building a nation.
Get in the know with the world of real estate with Business Access TV's Home Sweet Home, Sundays at 4:30 p.m.
We're taking you beyond our shores, across the region and around the world. Every week, BATV gives you in-depth reporting on the major stories that gripped headlines in the Caribbean and on the international scene. Join us Sundays for This Week Abroad. Business Access TV, serious about business at home and abroad.
complete for unsecured loans,
alleged corruption,
follows the closure.
If they made this investment,
Brokers strive to increase revenues.
He sought some answers.
Financial meltdown.
Here are the week's final
Here's
numbers.
Garth, News Roundup.
Camille, it's back to you.
That's Weekend Business Report with me, Keneal Gale, Saturdays and Sundays.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now let's join our presenter on stage.
The strategy of mobile payments, we think, is a win-win for financial inclusion. And let me explain a little bit this. If there is a country that goes directly to mobile payments without having gone through the previous stages of digital finance or buying through the internet, through traditional landlines, through the internet providers in general, we see internationally that the improvements go 10 times faster. So digital payments, mobile payments have two interesting notions for consumers. One, that they provide payments in real time. Second, that are cheaper. What's there not to like, right? And why do we think it's a win-win strategy for the different actors? First, for the unbanked, of course. If you do not have a banking account, and I've heard that roughly in Jamaica maybe it can be around 80% of the population, 70, 80%. But nevertheless, almost 100% have a mobile phone. So that brings opportunities, right? They will see that by starting paying over the phone, they are building a data, and they exist in the virtual economy of financial transactions. So they can be later provided with some insurance or offered some small credit line to buy electronically, and that's what happened precisely in China, where the e-commerce has brought all these payments. It's a win-win strategy for digital financial providers, and we saw that we are not talking about the traditional ones, the banks, but also new active players that now they can be interested, like fintech companies, startups, e-commerce, internet providers, to finance and to bank this new market share that represents almost 80% here. For the public sector, because they can use it also to different things. I mean, people can use it to pay taxes. The public sector can use it to provide benefits, welfare benefits through the digital accounts, and to other ends. So Bill Gates already said in 1995, we need banking, not banks. Interesting. That's what's happening now. Banking is not a monopoly of the banks. It's a much bigger concept now. So we've seen in the recent years that this has been very true, because we've seen the fintech activities, so the advancement of technology and the open platforms has made possible that new players come to offer financial services. Banking is it's a concept that is changing. So banks are working from traditional banking to digital banks and other actors that are coming. Bill Gates said in 1995, we need banking, not banks, and this is becoming very true. I mean, we see a lot of financial disintermediation and fintechs, big techs, internet giants getting into the financial sector. That's from observance to what's going on in China, in India, and in other countries. This is a win-win strategy for consumers, for unbanked population, because they see that they can have access to more products. If start doing payments, then they can build transactional data, and this data is embedded into the system, and they can be sold other products. And this is a win-win strategy for the digital financial services providers, because they have access to population that has mobile phones, but they don't have a bank account. And finally, this is a win-win strategy for regulators, because they can use these systems also to provide welfare benefits, payments, payrolls, and they can be used to pay taxes, and so So the traditional concept of banking is changing, and if the countries like Jamaica that didn't have a previous digital strategy that includes using landline services, it is well researched that the countries that go mobile first or mobile only, the improvements are 10 times faster, which is good news also. In terms of safety, it's very important to collaborate with the financial inclusion programs. They collaborate with financial literacy. They need to be aware of what are the different methods that they can use, and it's driven also by a good, like the Bank of Jamaica is doing and has in their agenda to promote financial literacy, to promote the use of these new ways to conduct business and through the mobile in a safe way for consumers, in the sense that they can avoid fraud, or they cannot be hacked, or they cannot be put at risk. So they need to know better how to do it. But having been said, these are very easy to use ways. So for example, the social media messaging apps like WhatsApp is getting into payments. So what they are trying to do is to be very friendly used, and the consumer is at the center of the product. So you can use your app to pay, to buy cinema tickets, to use for taxes, to pay your taxes, to different things. So they are trying to do it so that it's very user-friendly.
We take our final break, but don't go anywhere. We have more highlights for you after this.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
Stay current and gain more information on the ever-evolving industry of real estate on Home Sweet Home, Sundays at 4:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Go for God Family Church.
Today's message is for those of you who thought that Jesus was finished.
Inspiring messages.
I'm here to tell you today that you are excellent. God is excellent.
Empowerment from biblical motivation.
To be glorified means to endow with authority. A woman is a powerful, creative being.
Join Pastor Christopher Morgan and the Go for God team as we go for God.
Thanks for staying with us. Now for more highlights.
GKMPay really have quite a few functionalities, and I think one of the things I've learned this morning is the use of collaboration, because I can see how easily we can collaborate with SMEs and other persons here. So basically, our functionalities allow us to load remittances to phone, and we must say here that we're one of the only mobile payment solution that can do that. So for instance, you walk into our Western Union location, and you can load the cash that you would now take out of that location onto your phone, right? So the functionality, as you see, is there. We do telephone top-up, so you can top up your phone, whether it's Lime, Digicel, Flow. You can also pay your bills, because as I would have said earlier, we have a bill payment entity. So you can pay from any one of our existing biller listing. We have peer-to-peer transactions where you can send money to other persons. So I'm here today, I need to pay my helper, how do I pay her? I basically send her her transfer. If you notice, we talked also about what is going to make the customer change. Our portal allows us to have rewards. So basically, if you sign on as a merchant, you can offer discounts. So why use GKMPay? You also have rewards. So if you look, you see a number 2 there. It means currently when you would open your phone and look at your phone, you basically have 2 coupons there from 2 merchants that you can now redeem. I think it's important that we talk about security because it was also mentioned the issue of lack of trust. Why should I use my phone? Is it safe? In developing our product, that was something we had to take into consideration. So in terms of using it, you have a PIN. You have to use a PIN to get on. You have to use a PIN to complete your payment. When you go into our self-serve portal, which is again helping you to basically help yourself through this new journey that you're on in terms of becoming digital, there is a self-serve or a customer portal that is self-serve. And of course, it's encrypted. If you leave your phone, it's locked, right? If you lose your phone, you do not lose your money. And I think that's also very important that we have to educate our consumers on. If you lose your phone, it's even safer than if you have lost your wallet or if you have lost your credit cards or your debit card. There's not this long process. You call the call center and you reactivate your phone. So the issue of security and development was integral in terms of the platform that we developed. So what were some of the challenges we were facing in terms of GKMPay? And I heard it again from the previous presenter. The idea of educating our customers. There is still this lack of trust for the technology. You know, do I really trust that my money is going to be on my phone, that I'm going to be able to use it when and where I want to use it? What if I lose it? So how do we truly get our customers to embrace this new technology? We also have to educate them that it's safer, you know, to use the phone. I have in the audience, we invited the head of the Taxi Association here today, Alan Blair, right? And one of the things we've been saying is, as taxi men, collecting, how is it safe for you to be on the road all time of night with money on your body? So we're also promoting safety, but still we were having a challenge. So customers, merchants were really not accepting that this is a new norm. So we have launched GKMPay. I want to go to KFC, but KFC is saying, what is GKMPay? What's in it for me? And the customers are saying, I can't go anywhere and cash out, so why should I get GKMPay? So again, it was interesting to see the 2 approaches in terms of top-down, bottom-up, and which do we think is best for Jamaica, because there's going to have to be, I believe, a regulatory push to get persons on board, right? So the issue of onboarding our merchants, our agents, our customers is truly a challenge. Which come first, the chicken or the egg? So what do we need? We definitely need education, public awareness, not only of our customers, but also our consumers. We really, again, I said, would like to thank the BOJ for this type of symposium because we do think it's building awareness. However, we think it has to go much more than that. It has to reach to the public in terms of saying, I have confidence in this system. I'm validating this new payment system for Jamaica. It's how Jamaica is truly going to have a digital economy. So we truly need that endorsement from the Bank of Jamaica. We need integration with our payment system, with our banking system. So if you think about it, the taxi man, he collects his $100,000 for the night. What does he want to do? And we talk about financial inclusion. He wants to put that money in his bank account, right? So right now he would have to go and cash out. We're saying he should be able to go to FGB, NCB, and lodge his monies to his bank account. And we think this is another integral takeaway. If we talk about true financial empowerment, true financial inclusion, this is the way we're going to get it. One of the things, and I said review of the wallet size, one of the things we also say is if we have our taxi man lodging these funds every day to his bank, he can get his GKMPay statement. Why can't he use that statement to say, this is my source of income? You know, this is my true, legitimate source of income. Whether it is to get a small loan, whether it's to get a loan for his daughter to go to college, we don't know. But these type of forward thinking is really what we need when we start talking about digital payments.
Okay, Quisk is NCB's solution, NCB's mobile wallet offering. Essentially is a way that you can make a payment or receive payment without either plastic, and it's you use your phone number in order to You can use a phone number, go to the ABM and can do cash out from the ABM, or you can make a payment at a merchant. So if you were to go to a merchant and instead of swiping your card or insertion of your card, you enter your 10-digit phone number, then your 6-digit password, and then you can pay for your goods or services. So, and you can also do peer-to-peer transfers. So if we go to, let's say a group of us go to dinner and we go Dutch, we can just transfer all the funds to one person, and then that person can make the payment on the NCB terminal to pay for the dinner. We launched Quisk in 2016, and we've seen increased interest because of a number of changes we've made to the product, and we made it a little easier as well for customers. So we see where there's been significant increase, and we have a number of quick service restaurants. So we've increased the offering, we've built out the ecosystem, and we continue to build out this ecosystem. So customers are seeing increase in value in NCB Quisk. Just about every merchant who has NCB terminals, you would be able to access Quisk. So for the newer merchants, they're signed up automatically with Quisk, but for merchants who have been in system for a long time, we continue to go through the process of adding Quisk to their terminals. So if there's any merchant that you'd like to use Quisk and you're not seeing where they have Quisk at this time, we can easily add them, because the same machine that any of our merchants have can process KeyCard, MasterCard, Visa card, can process Multilink debit card, process Amex, China Union Pay, Discover, JCB cards, and of course NCB Quisk. So the merchants don't require to have an additional terminal. So it's the same terminal that process all debit and credit card transactions that process Quisk right now.
The unbanked constitutes over 500,000 people, and we want to get them included. The government's policy of financial inclusion, and that's our aim. Our product is not as, what should I say, invasive as when you go to try and open a bank account. We have the Bank of Jamaica guidelines for the card, which is not as stringent. It's once you collect remittance from abroad, it's the same process. So it's not very difficult, but the difficulty is going to be education. How do you convince people who are not used to a product and what they perceive as a bank product? How do they get access to it? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find ways to make it simple and fast. I think it's very timely, because without financial inclusion, the economy cannot grow. If you have half your population unbanked and doesn't have access to financial services, which means credit, just a regular bank account to do transactions, it's very, very difficult to maximize your potential. We went to a card product as opposed to the mobile wallet. Our products can also use mobile technology, but it's just an educational process, and that's long and hard to convince somebody to put your money on a device like a phone. It's not an easy thing to persuade people to do. They don't have any confidence in it. They have never seen it, and how do you convince them that it is safe and this is going to be a very convenient tool? But over time, I believe Jamaicans are very technology savvy and hungry, and we hope that over time we'll have that.
That brings us to the end of part one of our two-part coverage of the Driving Financial Inclusion with Digital Payments Conference. Until next time, I'm Javon Keys. Stay tuned to Business Access TV, serious about business.
Hi, I'm Richard Pandoy, CEO for the Separate Group of Companies. You're watching Business Access TV. We're serious about business.
A concerted effort to preserve our heritage is a vital link to our cultural, educational, aesthetic, inspirational, and economic legacies. All of the things that quite literally make us who we are. Solid words from American author Steve Berry. And looking back at some of the things that make us who we are led us to Spanish Town and other places, where we are reminded of the grim realities of slavery, but the beauty embedded in our architecture. So come, journey with me back in time. This is Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson.
So here are the facts.
7 out of 10 Jamaicans die from a non-communicable disease.
Because we love our people and we want them to live better quality lives,
we, the Ministry of Health and our partners, are launching Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica Moves is a call to action to prevent non-communicable diseases.
By educating and encouraging Jamaicans to be active, eat healthy,
and start living 30 minutes at a time.
Because 30 minutes of physical activity each day, along with proper nutrition, can go a long way.
To prevent your risk from developing certain NCDs such as diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and certain cancers.
And remember, it's life we're promoting. That's why you see me going hard right now.
I'm all about living.
So help us take this first step towards a healthier Jamaica so you can enjoy more moments, more memories, more life.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, October 4. The police yesterday intercepted several illegal rounds of ammunition and guns that were shipped to the island. 10 firearms, 640 rounds of ammunition, and 1 silencer were found in a barrel packed among food items. The operation was led by the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime CTOC Division at the Kingston Container Terminal. 4 persons have been arrested in connection with the find. By year end, Parliament will debate on the future of the National Housing Trust, NHT. So says Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who asserts that the NHT in its present form is in need of reform to meet the housing demands placed on it. As a result, Mr. Holness says he will table the commissioned NHT Strategic Review report for Parliament to discuss a way forward for the entity.
That report has in it many proposals as to how we can reform the NHT so that it can both support the national agenda items, such as the economic programs, but also how to expand its true mandate, which is to increase home ownership in Jamaica.
Prime Minister Holness made the announcement Wednesday as he broke ground for the $860 million Maxfield Park housing development in St. Andrew. The project, which sits on 6.14 acres, will house 210 solutions.
It's not just getting the better housing solution, but just changing the way in which people live can literally transform and uplift the lives of the people.
Prime Minister Holness, meanwhile, announced that the NHT's new housing target is 23,000 housing solutions by the year 2021. Part of that thrust is the fast tracking of the NHT's community renewal program, where 1,000 solutions are expected to be delivered.
In Majestic Gardens, there will be 32 units developed. In Mona Commons, there will be 225 units to be developed. In Rasta City, in Tivoli Gardens, there will be 93. In Denham Town, there will be 28. In Juna Crescent, in Clarendon, there will be 70. In Canterbury, in St. James, 76.
100 houses are also to be constructed at St. Paul's Lane in Tower Hill and 131 at White Wing on Olympic Way in St. Andrew. International brand Hard Rock Hotel is to break ground for a 1,100-room resort in St. James. Construction of the hotel is to begin before year-end at Rose Hall in the parish. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett says once completed, the Hard Rock Resort will be the largest single hotel to be built in Jamaica.
It will be right beside Iberia Star going west towards the playfield.
The project is part of the 7,500 new rooms to be added to the local tourism product within the next 3 years. Mr. Bartlett made the disclosure at the recent launch of the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program at Spot Valley High School. The 2-year program commenced in September and involves 650 students across 32 schools. The first of its kind in the region, the program seeks to build a strong cadre of workers and entrepreneurs in the tourism industry. The performance task component of the Primary Exit Profile, PEP, has been rescheduled from December 2018 to March 2019. The other 2 aspects, the ability test and curriculum-based test, will be conducted in February and April 2019 as previously scheduled. Education Minister Senator Ruel Reid made the announcement Wednesday at his ministry's quarterly press briefing. He said the changes were based on recommendations from the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA.
Based on the consultation the JTA have had with their teachers and arising from just looking at where they are and their comfort level in terms of the new items and so on, they have asked us to make some adjustment to the examination schedule, which we have agreed to, and there's a MOU that we will sign with them to this effect. So as of now, I'm officially advising the country that we are now changing the schedule.
The government is to host a town hall meeting on the proposed development of National Heroes Park. The town hall meeting is scheduled for Heroes Circle on Thursday, October 25. All members of the community and stakeholders will be invited to participate in the discussion. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the announcement during the sitting of the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
We will answer their questions and address their concerns. In keeping with this commitment, a contract has been prepared for the retention of the Social Development Commission, the agency mandated to lead interventions and sensitization of communities regarding government programs, to lead this aspect of the project going forward.
He said the Urban Development Corporation has also initiated consultations with the Member of Parliament and councillors of the Central Kingston constituency and stakeholders such as the Wolmer's Trust, technical and professional persons, and members of the construction industry to seek their input on the way forward. The government has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with China Construction America for the crafting of technical plans for the development of a center of government at National Heroes Park. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Motorists. East Avenue of Marcus Garvey Drive in Kingston is temporarily one way. Coming from Marcus Garvey Drive, motorists are only allowed to head north onto East Avenue. Also, motorists are not allowed to turn left from Balmoral Avenue onto Maxfield Avenue. Chisholm Avenue and Oakland Road are also one-way roads going west from Balmoral Avenue. New traffic signals have been installed to indicate the short-term changes to the road network of Kingston.
Right across Jamaica, there are buildings that tell the story of our history as a people and a country. We stopped by the Filippo Baptist Church in Spanish Town, where part of the proclamation for the abolition of slavery was read.
It was our own national hero, the Right Excellent Sam Sharp, an enslaved man and a freedom fighter who said, "I would rather die upon yonder gallows than live in slavery." That sentiment was also shared by many other slaves. But the fight for freedom and the hope for victory brought liberation to many. Right here in Jamaica, the movement to end slavery was very active, and landmarks across the island document this part of our history.
We are on the Emancipation Trail, and we're looking at the symbolic parts of Jamaica which relate to emancipation, a very important change of status in our country. We're here in the Filippo Baptist Church compound in Spanish Town. Spanish Town is a very old city, founded in 1539, I believe. And this particular site was where the Baptists created a congregation in 1818. And this church, built by the Baptists at the time of Reverend Filippo, was part of the congregation that was very supportive of the move to emancipate all enslavement. And that is a magnificent building going back probably close to 200 years. This church is very historic. Right here, under this tamarind tree, and identified by this plaque, is the slave chains which were buried on August the 1st, 1838. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Deacon Ivan O'Connor, a member of this congregation, who is going to tell us some more about this very historic site and its relationship to emancipation.
I understand that part of the Declaration of Emancipation was read from the steps of this church. And a deep hole was dug right here, and all the chains that were available were put in there and covered. And a tamarind tree was put there as a monument. I understand that the first tamarind tree was destroyed by the 51 hurricane, but it was replaced. And it stands here now as a monument where people can come and get tamarind and remember the slavery chains.
And touch the monument as part of our experience
it is here
of
as a
what
reminder.
Emancipation was all about.
Right.
But I also think we have to remind ourselves that the original official declaration was read from the steps of King's House,
That's
the
right.
facade which is still in front of the square.
That square is Emancipation Square, which is also in Spanish Town and just a few meters away from the Filippo Baptist Church. Here was once the town center. Other important buildings in the square include the Old House of Assembly, Rodney's Memorial, and the Old Courthouse. The area was severely damaged by fire, as well as the 1692 earthquake, but parts of the buildings have since been restored and put to use. Back over at the Filippo Baptist Church,
We want to reaffirm how important the Baptist movement and denomination was to emancipation. They were major players in persuading the English government to declare free at last, emancipation on the 1st of August, 1838.
and it is believed that the chains of slaves were buried at the Filippo Baptist Church due to its close proximity to Emancipation Square and the unrelenting movement by the Baptist Church to put an end to slavery.
Somebody said some time ago, how can we write the history of Jamaica without including the Baptists? The Baptists were one of the churches that were very integral to the teaching of the slaves and emancipation. James Filippo was one of the persons who was integral in getting emancipation for the slaves in Jamaica.
While emancipation was declared for slaves, their conditions were not improved. So the movement for a more just society was challenged by Paul Bogle and George William Gordon. They were also part of the Baptist movement and later became two of our national heroes. As a result of this involvement, Baptist work in Jamaica became an enduring symbol of the church's opposition to slavery and all other forms of injustice.
This building was put up sometime about 1827 thereabout, and has been maintained over time. It's a natural heritage site, and so the National Heritage Trust has control over what happens here. Right after emancipation, James Filippo established free villages like in Sligoville, in parts of Clarendon, and also in, established churches. So this church is steeped in our history in Jamaica.
Come out and support Jamaica's Sunshine Girls as they compete in an exciting international test series. Jamaica will compete in a week of competition against Trinidad and Tobago's Calypso Girls, followed by the England Roses. The countries compete at the National Indoor Sports Centre on Arthur Wint Drive, Kingston 5. Tickets are sold online at ticketpal.com and in limited amount at the venue on match days. Feel the rhythm, catch the vibe with Jamaica's national netball team, the Sunshine Girls.
Back in the 17 and 1800s, Georgian-style architecture was very popular. It reflected who we were as a country while under British rule. Let's revisit a few of these landmarks.
The year was 1655 when the British first explored the terra firma, which is Jamaica, and discovered her prime lands, peaceful people, and eternal splendor. They explored her economic viability, leaving us lush green spreads of sugarcane cultivation, covering countless square miles of this, our land. And today standing, many unyielding and unmoved, structures of an inimitable mold and imposing stance. Some over 250 years old, set aloft as waters of the world beneath and keepers of countless tales, which unraveled on the high seas. These are Stonewall monuments, enclosing priceless narratives of our heritage, erected under the directives of the British. These are structures of the Georgian ilk, strewn in the highlands and on the roadways of Jamaica. History tells us that the British plantocracy preferred the fruits of the earth to the life the land dictated. Many adopted a life of absenteeism because, according to them, the finer things of England could not be quite replicated on the islands. But the sugar estates thrived, returning to the planters an abundance of wealth. Many decided, after all, they could afford the good old English life here on the island. So they brought a cornerstone of the fine British life here. The obsession of the English planters with contemporary British taste led to the establishment of a potpourri of Georgian structures on the island between the late 18th and early 19th centuries. At the turn of the 19th century, when Jamaica emerged as the leading agrarian and military outpost, the secret of her architectural blueprint quickly spread to neighboring British territories. Nevertheless, the architectural splendor of the local collection is rivaled by only a handful of other British colonies in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Barbados, and England herself.
We have the finest collection of Georgian buildings in the Caribbean, and indeed some of them are as fine as any in the England where the Georgian style started. So we need to take care of them.
Georgian-type edifices remain till today the most impressive example of domestic architecture in the West Indies. Georgian-style architecture became popular in England during the reign of King George IV and his antecedents from 1711 to 1830. However, the architectural form, according to the history books, was an 18th century fad, even though King George IV outlived the 1700s by some 30 years. The kings ruled during a particularly interesting period in Britain. It was a time when Britain was fast discovering her youth again, and the blueprint of the buildings of the time was drawn from the classic rebirth of that era. The architects of the age aimed at erecting simple symmetrical structures based on the shape of the circle and the belief that ancient mathematicians equated circles with geometric perfection. The Georgian building is a balanced structure, designed as it were for perfect dissection. Cast in what seems like plain brick or stonework or wood paneling, the Georgian-style building has enjoyed a 250-year-old groundwork of expertly laid red clay bricks, rectangular cuts of white limestone, and flat wooden slats. Fine examples of this intricate woodwork also aptly decorate the interior of the Georgian building. Watching the world outside set grandly in the building's walls are striking multi-glass windows, almost echoing a whispering reminder of the vintage appeal intrinsic in classic Georgian architecture.
So we are in the old capital, Spanish Town, to gauge public opinion on the impact of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch. Let's go find out. Peace step.
I for one think it's a good thing, and I would love to see them in Above Rock, St. Catherine.
Job well done. It's going. I love that. It prevents crime, and we can walk freely around Spanish Town now.
Well, I feel really good because, you know, this Prime Minister doing well for us right now, and I like to see these police right now everywhere because things is going on everywhere right now. You understand?
Yeah, I love to see them. I love to see them on the road.
You feel more secured and you feel safe.
Well, we feel 100% safe with them around.
Well, I haven't seen them, but I think they would do well wherever especially now in the town, the place is a bit congested and all of that.
For everyone's safety, it is good to have them everywhere right now, and you know, when you see them more often, it's better for us, for the safety for the people.
Well, I don't feel away because the police that say, don't know police, they have serving people, so can't feel away, don't?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them. Yeah, I want to see more of them if possible.
Especially for me who have a child and my child is around this environment, I feel more safe, so I love to see them. I don't mind them being here.
Those were some of the opinions of motorists, pedestrians, and other residents of Spanish Town on the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch. Peace them. I'm Vanessa Silvero.
I said be careful what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you saying to my sister. She could be the next Prime Minister.
Sexual abuse is always a very difficult thing to confront, particularly when the alleged victim is a child. Parents, if it is that you suspect that your child has been sexually abused or is in a vulnerable set of circumstances where an abuse may occur, we encourage you to have dialogue with your child. Take the child to the pediatrician who normally attends to the child. If there is no such pediatrician, take your child to the clinic, to the hospital, to some medical practitioner who can do an assessment for you. It's very important as well that we don't just look at the physical side, but we also seek to find the kind of psychosocial support that a child may need. Does the child need a session with a counselor? Does the child need to speak with a pastor who is used to dealing with these issues? Does the child need to get that ongoing psychological support to assist with the healing process and also to assist the child in becoming strong enough, as it were, to deal with the various processes that will follow once it is that you suspect an abuse has occurred? If it is that the child actually discloses when you engage the child in discussion that, yes, mommy and daddy, I was abused, we encourage you to entertain the child, to listen to what the child has to say to you, and to take it very seriously. So we really urge you to have those discussions and to seek guidance in terms of, do I speak to the police about this, which we always say you have to, because once a child has been sexually abused, it's a criminal matter, and it means that once at all possible, the child should be assisted to go through the processes so that the perpetrator can in fact be held accountable. Support your child and let them understand in very clear terms that they are not the cause or the reason for this abuse having been perpetrated. But the most important element is to support them, get them access to the services that they need, and give them a chance to have you give them that listening ear. For these tips and of course any other information that deals with children, that is anyone under 18 years, please feel free to contact the Office of the Children's Advocate. We're at 72 Harbour Street, downtown Kingston, and our numbers are 948-1134, or website www.oca.gov.jm. Thank you.
Watch what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you saying to me sister, cause she could be the next Prime Minister.
As we close today's show, we ask that you stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Having a corporate event, seminar, awards show, conference, product launch, workshop or expo? Business Access TV is here to showcase your event. Contact our sales department at 908-0919, 906-6357, or 908-2775 for more information. Business Access TV, serious about business.
My name is Christelle Harris. You're watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
Welcome to part 2 of BATV's coverage of the Driving Financial Inclusion with Digital Payments Conference happening right here at the Bank of Jamaica. I'm your host, Javon Keys, inviting you to stay tuned.
DBJ, in collaboration with the Inter-American Development Bank, has embarked on a program of financial inclusion, or assisting with the development of the and also assisting with the development of the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, an important part of the conference is to bring awareness to the availability of the relevant technologies that can assist in bringing efficiencies to businesses. So this conference is under the theme Electronic Retail Payments as well as Financial Inclusion, because we're seeking to bring micro and small businesses into the formal sector and for them to understand how they can utilize digital technology to improve their business operations. We think that the conference is timely because we're at a stage now in the market where there are 3 providers of call it non-traditional services, mobile money services, and one in the form of a prepaid MasterCard. Now, as it relates to mobile money, that particular service has been on the market for about 3 or 4 years, but the adoption of mobile money services has been below par. But mobile money has been used in other areas to move persons into the formal sector and to assist in reducing things like transaction costs for businesses. So we think it is timely now that our MSMEs seek to adopt this technology as they move towards improving business efficiency. As it relates to the presenters, we endeavor to bring presenters who are already in the space, persons who are aware of the technology, and persons who could contribute and help in convincing microfinance organizations as well as other stakeholders of the importance of moving Jamaica in this direction.
The idea behind this is really seeking how we can help to develop the ecosystem for digital payments to encourage more persons to actually use it as a means of engaging with regulated financial institutions or regulated payment system providers. The thinking behind it is that you have to understand the customer's perspective, remove the pain points, understand the provider's perspective, and facilitate the flow of business and funding. Because this financial inclusion project is part of a broader project to empower Jamaicans to actually engage in the global economy. First of all, I think we need to redefine ourselves. I think we limit ourselves unnecessarily. Jamaicans, and Jamaica is actually on the cusp of becoming first world. We're an upper middle income country. We have sacrificed greatly in terms of financial sector reform. So what you see in the ERPS guidelines, the Electronic Retail Payment Services guidelines, is the creation of the regulatory framework which speaks to consumer protection, speaks to agents, speaks to the nature of the product design, and we go through a rigorous assessment of the product, which means that when a consumer now uses an authorized ERPS product, they have confidence that Bank of Jamaica has looked at the issue, looked at fit and proper, looked at the agent network, and even looked at the mechanisms to protect the consumer. So, of course, data protection is critical, but what also needs to be remembered at each point is that this is a means of facilitating payments. So we have tiered levels because we understand that the transaction volume and the value of each transaction is important to the individual customer. So it's all being done from a customer perspective as well as ensuring you develop the ecosystem. We are about empowering Jamaicans and empowering our financial institutions and providers by bringing them together in a forum where we can speak about the areas that need to be improved upon and addressed. And the main takeaway for the Jamaicans would be that we can actually use digital payments to facilitate business and facilitate it easily with confidence, knowing the payment will go through, knowing that it will reach its intended recipient, and knowing that you have confidence at the end of the day your wallet, your mobile wallet, is in fact operating as it should to protect you.
I was presenting on public-private partnerships and how its impact can influence a successful ecosystem for electronic retail payments. The main takeaway points is that the private sector, in assisting the government to achieve national financial inclusion strategy, cannot do it on its own. There has to be a substantial investment by the government itself to advance financial inclusion. This conference is an offshoot of the government's plan, and in this plan it involves the commitment to public and private partnership, which is education of the public on the government's intention to support digital products for the underserved, and hence it's called financial inclusion. It's very timely. Digital evolution, it's becoming faster and faster, and the sooner Jamaicans are made aware of the opportunities, the sooner the investors, all stakeholders, and the consumers can participate. I personally would not like to see a foreign company come in and provide solutions to our own citizens, which we are capable of doing. So it is incumbent upon us to now start to roll out our strategies. There are 4 authorized issuers, and issuer is the company who will be providing the service. There is Alliance, GK, which does MPay, Quisk, NCB, and previously there was Connect. And these companies have made significant advancements and investments into the new ecosystem. And I personally believe that there's so much opportunity. Lasco Financial Services is preparing its application as well, because we see the opportunities in the market. But for the state, we believe it is necessary for them to assist us with the public education, because we have to convert. It's going to be a lot to convert new customers who are not fully aware of the opportunities and the entire security features of this digital payment that us as issuers can't do on our own. So that was mainly the gist of my presentation, to make the state think differently about their role in financial inclusion, and also to make the investors think differently about their role. I find that most of the investors are so focused on the payment system, which is the technology, and not thinking about the ecosystem. Now, the ecosystem is necessary to drive success, which is all the merchants involved, all the agents that are involved, and other government stakeholders. So I hope today I was able to give them a different perspective. So far, there's not been any successful business proposition, neither for the customer nor the investors themselves. So I hope I was able to get them to think a little differently today.
It's time for a quick break, but stay with us. We have much more after this.
The Nissan X-Trail with All-Mode I Technologies. No matter what the road throws at you, your story starts here.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but 4 walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show, and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us.
So people earn more as technology get adopted. So that's on the macro side, but then there are overwhelming distributional effect of technology. The high school droppers, their real wage hasn't moved from 1963, from the 60s. So what happened with technology adoption is that those who are able to use those technologies are the ones who benefit, because the technology is complementary to high skill. Think about powerful computers. You can do programming. Obviously, you program faster. You can run your code faster. But if you have robots are substitute to who? Robots are substitute to low-skilled workers. You still need high-skilled people to program those robots. So in equilibrium, you would have more higher real wage, higher productivity for high-skilled workers, and lower real wage for low-skilled workers. Because the demand for those low-skilled is lower because they get substituted with robots, but the demand for high-skill is higher because you need more high-skilled people to program and to actually operate those robots. Now, that's the general perspective on technology, but you may wonder, is this time different? Is the digital revolution different from the previous technological change that occurred? In some respect, yes, but not totally. Yes, because this chart shows you the lag in the adoption of technologies. So if you look at earlier technologies in terms of motor engines, they were slow. The adoption of those technologies was slower. So the digital is faster to adopt, maybe because of the nature of the technology itself. But the reality is that the changes that we've seen over the past 50 years, you may have to double that. You'll be thinking about it 50 years ahead because technology diffusion is faster. Now, I do believe that people learn fast. I mean, if, we saw yesterday in the keynote there was a top-down approach to financial inclusion, which in the case of Jamaica could mean the path benefits are channeled through funds. And as you do that, that alone, if people are already aware that my path benefit will be coming on my phone, it unlocks that possibility to use funds as device to mobile service and all. So I think there is some scope for top-down in terms of what the policy can do to incentivize those behaviors. In some other countries where the private sector is very large and have a lot of access to credit, they could also engineer, they could facilitate that process. But I think in developing countries there is a scope for government to kind of fuel the process.
I was essentially looking back and to see how technology, what has been the impact on technology, on work, technology on distribution. And the key message there is that technological advancement have generally been associated with higher growth, higher productivity, and higher real wages on aggregate. But they also come with some challenges because when there are new technology, some people get displaced because some new jobs get created as a substitution to some of the old jobs. So usually technology are more skill biased. So those people who have skills are complementary to technology. Like if you need robots, you're essentially substituting low-skill jobs. But those people who can operate the robots and program the robots, those are the people who, in the first instance, benefit the most. Now, that could lead to polarization of income. So you may have more inequality because the more skill get more and the low skill get less because they get substituted by the machines, right? So the question there is what can policy do? And this is one of the questions that I was trying to provide an answer to, drawing on some work that has been done at the IMF on technology and the future of work. And essentially, there is a taxation and spending policies that could be adopted. First, to make sure that the unskilled can keep up with technology in terms of upgrading their skills. And number two, how to finance that. Because if the government wants to spend more in those areas, there is scope to raise taxes. And when you think about tax, you don't want to tax the income of the person earning more because he may work less. So you don't want distortionary taxes. You want consumption type tax. So in that model, they try to see if taxing consumption to finance more education spending and providing some transfers, how can you redistribute the gain of technological change? So you keep the growth, so you keep the fact, you don't prevent technology from occurring, because one of the nature of the growth and development is that new sectors comes up, some jobs get destroyed, and as long as there is no distortion in the process, you shouldn't prevent the process. And that's what policy can do, you know, in terms of using taxation and spending to make sure that although the aggregate gains of technology are protected, you also take care of the non-so-skilled in terms of upgrading them.
We take our final break, but don't go anywhere. We have more highlights for you after this.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wishes people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Go for God Family Church.
Today's message is for those of you who thought that Jesus was finished.
Inspiring messages.
I'm here to tell you today that you are excellent. God is excellent.
Empowerment from biblical motivation.
To be glorified means to endow with authority. A woman is a powerful, creative being.
Join Pastor Christopher Morgan and the Go for God team as we go for God.
Thanks for staying with us, and if you're just tuning in, we're here at the Driving Financial Inclusion with Digital Payments Conference. Now for more highlights.
Security incidents have been increasing in sophistication, frequency, and the magnitude of impact. So no longer you have a one-way hack. So we hack an organization somewhere and it's isolated. No more we have that. We're going big. Hackers are organized. You have hacker teams, and I really don't want to scare you really, really bad, but we have them locally too. And on these teams, you have the person who is in charge of personal data. You are the technical person. You do the social engineering. Different persons have their different roles. So they're dedicated to what they do. This is their job. Figure out how to get into a certain amount of accounts and take out the money. These incidents, as I have alluded to before, affect the reputation of the company, their finances, and even their physical assets, because they can take down your networks. This undermines your competitiveness and your ability to innovate and position yourself in the marketplace. You can suffer tangible, physical, or economic harms. Security incidents can impose significant costs on an economy as a whole, eroding trust and spreads across sectors. The attacks themselves may be intentional. So they may sit and plan for a year that look, we're coming for Bank of Jamaica. However, it may also be unintentional. You may just have that one user that's clicked on the wrong thing. A lot of times, that happens. What are some of the ways in which this can happen? Now, research has shown that generally don't think about because they're not traditional, but it's the age in which we're living again. You must look at things such as passwords. You have to ensure that their users know that their name is not a good password. They also need to be aware of the fact that when you give them a set of credentials, it's theirs. And anything happens under those credentials, they are responsible. And always be careful of opening and following links in unsolicited mail. If you don't know the person, like me and the cyberjutsu person, don't be clicking at them. As much as it make you feel good, the feel-good factor is what they used to get. And what we say, always be cyber safe, protect yourself online, and think before you click. And I've even gone further now to say think before you post, because some of the things that you're posting, they're even more dangerous than somebody stealing your phone. I spoke about the need for persons to be aware of the issues that can arise with using online platforms as well as using electronic devices. So we want people to know that while there are good uses, and I did speak to some of the uses of social media in marketing and in promoting a business, there are some risks that exist, and I gave some examples as to how to manage those risks. Companies need to do all that is necessary to protect consumers' data. Why I don't think sometimes they realize that this data that they hold is valuable to other organizations, some not necessarily legal organizations as well, for all sorts of use. And that is what we're trying to get across, that companies need to realize that you're holding personal data and other persons are interested in this data, so it is your responsibility to protect it. When you're using online platforms, when you're using electronic devices, think before you click, think before you post with social media. You need to consider the impact that whatever you post may have, not only on you, but on others. Thinking before you click can save yourself and your organization a lot of trouble.
As it relates to a digital world, and as users and consumers increase their usage, and the intention is that as technology improves and increases, then more and more persons should take up the use, especially to do businesses and services. But the direction that we're heading is good, but we also have to think about the negative side of things, in the sense that there are challenges with respect to security aspect of what we do. We do a lot of business online, we do a lot of transaction, point-of-sale services. All of these things, pose risk and threat for the consumers. Criminals are out there, they're understudying and looking at how things move on and progress with respect to businesses, whether it's online businesses and things like that. They can get involved in studying your patterns of usage online. Say, for example, if you pay bills online, if you shop online, normally you'll put your information about your card online, your PIN number online. Criminals can now send malicious software to your smart devices. Once it gets on your devices, these criminals now have access to your information. It dumps things like keyloggers, so when you're ready to put your card number in, they capture that number. It goes as far as turning on your camera system and turns on your audio system. Sounds very scary, but indeed it is so. I'm not here to let persons become paranoid, but becomes aware of the possibilities that are out there. Sometimes you go to point of sale to do your transactions. We have to be careful of the persons that are accepting your debit and credit card, because sometimes they work with the criminal underworld. They get things like skimmers, a similar thing to your swipe when you take it to the supermarket or gas station. Swipes. Criminals are now bringing into the country the fake ones, so that cashiers and persons who are accepting these cards, they will have the fake, what we call a skimmer. Once you make your payment and you're not paying attention, these persons can swipe these cards, capture the information about your card, recreate your card, or get into your account. So I'd advise shoppers, when you go to the gas station, Don't just give your card and turn your back or let the attendant go away with your card. If they're not doing these transactions in your presence, then you should not do business with that kind of, business place. So these are some of the things, we just want you to be aware that these are the possibilities, and you have to be vigilant as a user and as a consumer, because the more and more we move into a cashless society, it becomes more challenging for law enforcement to investigate these cases. As I said before, the internet has no borders, and all of these things are connected on a global scale to different servers providing different services. And sometimes you have persons out there that can hide their criminal activity. Say, for example, an IP address. Criminals can now hide their IP address, make it appear that it's coming from a specific server, a proxy server, makes it more difficult for law enforcement to track these criminals. But I want to reassure the Jamaican public that law enforcement and government is doing the best they can at this point, seeing that, digitization and technology drives the economy. We'll have to prepare ourselves to serve and protect consumers as they use technology more. Laws are in place to deal with criminals and to deter their activity. We have the Cybercrime Act of 2015, which is now up for revision. The penalties are stiff. If it's in the lower court, it can be between 3 to 5 years or $3 to $5 million. If it's in the upper court, you can get a maximum of 20 years or $20 million. And these are some of the things we are putting in place to deter criminal activity. Of course, the police department do have a specific unit that deals with the investigation of these types of crimes. Personnel have been trained and have the necessary skill set that can investigate these matters. Another thing is that Jamaica is a part of a global network of investigators and skilled person who can investigate these cases. So because the internet has no borders, it means that a perpetrator can, have access to your information from outside of Jamaica, which means that you need the support of other countries. Jamaica is a part of a 24/7 network, which comprises of about 80 different countries. So if a perpetrator appears to be coming from country X, once that country is a part of the network, then they will collaborate and support the investigation with the local police department. And that is something that, we want consumers to be reassured that indeed we are trying to keep up with the game as criminals get more sophisticated.
And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our 2-part coverage of the Driving Financial Inclusion with Digital Payments conference. Until next time, I'm Javon Keys, inviting you to stay tuned to Business Access TV, serious about business.
Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. The union representing the workers on Mandela Highway is questioning why it wasn't invited to a meeting between the government and China hardware engineering company CHEC yesterday. Sashana Small reports.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Ollie Swell, convened the meeting at the office of the Prime Minister OPM yesterday. Mrs. Swell met with the National Works Agency NWA, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and the China Harbour Engineering Company. According to the statement from the OPM, they met to discuss the plight of the workers on the Mandela Highway who've been on strike since Sunday. The workers are protesting low wages and poor working conditions. But the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, UCASE, which represents the workers, was not invited. UCASE President Vincent Morrison isn't pleased.
We weren't invited to the meeting.
Workers, if you notice the release that came out, it's a meeting between the National Works Agency, the Office of the Ministry of Economic Growth, Ministry of Labor. The persons who arranged the meeting did not invite or deem it necessary to invite the workers. The workers are at the center of the dispute, and I would imagine that it would have been most helpful and considerate for the workers to have been invited to that meeting.
According to the statement from OPM, government officials at the meeting noted that no formal complaints has been made to the Ministry of Labour about a dispute between the workers and CHEC. But Mr. Morrison is disputing this.
You cannot say no complaints. Several complaints have been made to the Ministry of Labour about what is happening out there. Several complaints have been made, several occasions, not now, several other times about the condition of the workers out there.
In the meantime, CHEC is denying that they are paying workers below industry standards. And they say despite the strike, the December deadline for the completion of the Mandela Highway project will be met. For BATV News, I'm Shoshana Small.
Meanwhile, opposition leader and president of the People's National Party, PNP, Dr. Peter Phillips, left the island today as part of a delegation to meet with stakeholders in the U.S. and China. Dr. Phillips is set to address members of the Jamaican diaspora in New York before traveling to the People's Republic of China. There, he'll be the special guest of the Communist Party of China. He's also scheduled to have discussions with major Chinese investors with interests in Jamaica, including Jiquan Iron and Steel Company JISCO, the operators of the Alpart plant in St. Elizabeth. The delegation to China also includes Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Lisa Hanna and Shadow Minister of Mining and Energy Philip Paulwell, while Shadow Minister of Transport and Works Mikhail Phillips will accompany the team on the U.S. leg of the trip. Palace Resorts is expanding its operations in Jamaica with a $250 million investment. The luxury hotel brand announced today that they'll be designing and building 750 new rooms. The investment will also include upgrades to the town of Ocho Rios. Here's more.
Palace Resorts has been operating the luxury all-inclusive Moon Palace Jamaica Grand since 2014. They're now investing in their second major hotel in Jamaica following the purchase of rooms on the beach in Ocho Rios. And the Mexican hotel chain says it's also committed to redeveloping the town of Ocho Rios. They've partnered with the Urban Development Corporation UDC to create a master plan for the town. This will include a pier with a multitude of dining options, a renovated public beach, a boardwalk, snack bars, as well as a sand-based soccer field and an open aircraft market featuring local artisan items. The company says the construction of the new property and the expansion and development project in Ocho Rios will create an additional 3,500 jobs for Jamaicans. Managing Director of Moon Palace Jamaica Cliff Reeder says the planned redevelopment of Ocho Rios will elevate its presence and foster tourism and economic growth. For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
And when we come back, find out when the NHT strategic review will finally be made public. This and more after the break.
Having a corporate event, seminar, awards show, conference, product launch, workshop or expo? Business Access TV is here to showcase your event. Contact our sales department at 908-0919, 906-6357, or 908-2775 for more information. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point. Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show. And Weekend Business Report. Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung. Dissecting the issues. offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Welcome back. A review of the National Housing Trust, NHT, is to be made public by the end of the year. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who has ministerial responsibility for the agency, made the announcement at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Maxfield Park housing development earlier this week. Jamila Maitland reports.
It's been 8 months since Prime Minister Andrew Holness said a strategic review of the NHT was completed and was to be taken to Cabinet. The Prime Minister says finally, the review is to be made public by the end of the year.
2 years ago, or a year ago, commissioned a review of the NHT. The commissioned report is complete, and we will make it public very shortly, before the year is out, and we will have a debate in Parliament on the report itself.
He says the team has made several recommendations for the future of the NHT, as well as expansion for more houses for Jamaicans.
That report has in it many proposals as to how we can reform the NHT so that it can both support the national agenda items, such as the economic programs, but also how to expand its true mandate, which is to increase home ownership in Jamaica.
Meanwhile, Mr. Holness says the government takes $11 billion annually from the NHT to support the country's economic reform program. He says although this is in the country's interest, it takes away from the agency's main purpose.
But every year that we do that, we also close off the opportunity to expand in the actual mandate of the NHT, which is to build more houses. So it is important that I look at the NHT not so much as a social organization to build housing, but more so as a financial institution that is well run and well managed so that it can support the social programs to build housing solutions, such as this one.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke says Bloomberg News' recent declaration that the Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, has the best performing financial market in the world is testament to the country's stabilized and energetic economy. Dr. Clarke was addressing the Rotary Club of Kingston this afternoon. Here again is Jamila Maitland.
Earlier this week, Bloomberg News ranked the Jamaica Stock Exchange amongst the world's best performing equities markets for the last 5 years. That's compared to some 90 other equities markets worldwide. The respected financial news outlet says the Jamaica Stock Exchange has amassed the largest percentage of growth over the period, growing by 233%. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke says that's independent evidence of Jamaica's economic performance.
That's not measured in Jamaican dollars or in Trinidadian dollars. Measured in hard currency, the best performing stock market in the world over the last 5 years. There's no better investment, i.e., in the world over the last 5 years than investing in the real economy of Jamaica.
The minister says the government seeks to bring more stability to the economy. Earlier this week, Parliament approved an increase in the country's supplementary budget.
Capital expenditure has doubled over the last 2 years, from $32 billion in 2015-2016 to $60 billion this year. And after the supplementary budget that was passed by Parliament on Tuesday, to $65 billion this year, a doubling of capital expenditure. And it's through capital expenditure that we're able to improve service delivery to the public and improve quality of life.
He described several impacts of the government's economic reform program.
The impact of the economic reform program has been broad-based. It has improved poverty, it has improved employment, it has improved access to mortgages, it has improved inflation, which all affect, it has improved public service delivery, and it has improved social support. Those are things that affect people, that affect individuals on the ground and improve quality of life.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
And when we come back, unemployment in South Africa is at its highest ever. This and more in regional and international news up next.
Taking you beyond our shores, across the region and around the world. Every week, BATV gives you in-depth reporting on the major stories that gripped headlines in the Caribbean and on the international scene. Join us Sundays for This Week Abroad. Business Access TV, serious about business at home and abroad.
Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. 1 in every 3 South African youth are unable to find work, and more than half of the population lives in poverty. The government is having a job summit to help create jobs. However, there's skepticism as to whether or not it will be effective. Here's more from Al Jazeera's Famida Miller.
Art and design has always been a passion for Bongani Makoba. But he says he only opened his own tattoo parlor because he couldn't find any other work. He started his business with just $15.
Because of the qualifications and all that, and I did not finish school, so I couldn't get a job. So I started doing my own things at home. Because there was my uncle who used to be an artist, so I copied things from him, and then I started building my own machine, and then that's when I started then.
According to government statistics, 1 in 3 young South Africans could not find work this year. There's also a car wash and fast food restaurant along the road where Bongani runs his tattoo parlor. All of these businesses were started because their owners couldn't find jobs, so they turned to entrepreneurship. The government is now holding a summit to help create jobs to lower the high unemployment rate. But many are skeptical of just how effective it will be. This will be the 4th job summit in 2 decades, and in that time, unemployment has risen from 24 to just over 27%. Statistics South Africa, a government agency, says 69,000 jobs were lost in the 2nd quarter of 2018 alone. A poorly performing economy and the need for more investment are creating further challenges.
One of the most important reasons for the high unemployment rate in South Africa is the concentration of economic power in the hands of government, big businesses and strong organized labor. And small businesses do not play the role that they should be playing, as they play in many other countries, to be the major source of job creation in the country.
The government says more practical measures and initiatives will be used to create jobs for millions of South Africans.
We want a bigger impact in terms of job creation. We want government to unblock those blockages that may have caused uncertainty in the minds of the investors, of the employers in the country, regulatory uncertainties. That will be addressed as a matter of urgency.
Economists say South Africa needs a growth rate of at least 4% a year to prevent more jobs from being lost. But the South African Reserve Bank projects that the economy will grow by just 0.7% this year. Some economists say that South Africa would have to adjust its entire education and economic strategy to realize its target of halving unemployment by 2030. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.
The State of the Tourism Industry Conference is taking place this week in the Bahamas. The event sees industry stakeholders coming together to share industry trends. Here's more in this report.
Tourism officials playing host to one of the premier tourism conferences on its calendar, the State of Tourism Industry Conference, or SOTIC 2018. The Prime Minister officially opened the conference Tuesday night at the Atlantis Resort's Grand Ballroom. More than 300 delegates from the tourism sectors are expected to attend the event. Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Hubert Minnis highlighted that the tourism industry offers more employment and engagement opportunities than almost any other economic sector.
And governments play an essential role in helping entrepreneurs to gain access to the skills and resources needed for success. If we can give birth to a generation of new entrepreneurs, we can move Caribbean tourism to greater heights and in many new directions. And one of these new directions is a greater global involvement in tourism by the people of the Caribbean.
Minister of Tourism and Aviation, the Honorable Dionisio de Aguilar, says the region's #1 business, tourism, is a robust, dynamic enterprise that is constantly evolving. And with that in mind, conferences like SOTIC are necessary.
I see SOTIC 2018 as a series of illustrious university courses in tourism. We are here primarily to learn. We will learn about the trends that are taking our industry in new directions. We will learn about the best practices that guarantee effective, efficient delivery of our tourism product offerings.
Caribbean Tourism Organization Secretary General Hugh Riley reflected on the fact that 1 year ago, 2 Category 5 hurricanes wreaked havoc throughout the region, but he notes the Caribbean is a place of resilience and continues to rebuild.
Rebuilding has occurred, some of it still underway in the hardest hit areas, and much has been written about the solidarity of the Caribbean, neighbors helping neighbors, unaffected territories and affected ones reaching out to each other. If there is a good thing about a crisis, it is the camaraderie it encourages.
Giftland Mall in Guyana owes the government some $25 million. However, the mall says they didn't pay the sum due to the council's failure to provide certain services. More from HGP Nightly News.
Speaking on behalf of the Giftland Mall's chairman Roy Bepat, consultant Roy Hugh told the inquiry that the council should not be paid due to failure to fulfill its obligations and failure to conform to terms reached at a meeting which had agreed that rates would be waived for the Giftland Mall.
MNCC have really done nothing for that area. The road, the lighting, the drainage was all done by MCG Inc. Garbage collection, disposal is done on a private contractual basis. That road also services a gated community at the rear of the mall, which
that's the road leading into the mall.
Yes, correct, by CARICOM. That was made and done by Mr. Bepat. The lighting, the drainage, everything.
Wouldn't it be prudent for you to then at least make some payment on account for 2017, the taxes?
Sir, I would like to agree with you, but I don't really see, without an agreement in force, just going ahead and begin paying something, because they can then say, well, look, you've paid part of it, pay the whole thing.
Further, it was agreed that a correspondence would be sent to the town clerk Royston King, indicating that what was discussed in the meeting was binding. To date, after many letters sent to Mr. King, a response pertaining to the meeting has reportedly not been made.
A schedule was to have been given by Mr. Bepat to the town clerk on how they were going to pay it, right?
So it's given to the town clerk.
Would be given to the town clerk, right? But Mr. King was supposed to reply to him stating that this was the agreement. Bepat was waiting on a letter of confirmation from Mr. King so that he could have submitted his repayment schedule.
The consultant added that on April 3, 2018, Mr. King wrote to the chairman indicating that the agreement which was reached in 2017 is no longer valid.
My chairman responded to Mr. King, reminding him of the meeting held on November 2nd, 2017. He also indicated he spoke with Mr. Lionel Jaikaran, who also promised to have the revised total originally agreed upon put in writing. This was not done.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Yanis Abram.
Shipping is the backbone of international trade. However, there are major concerns for the industry due to the trade war between the U.S. and China. TRT World's Joel Flynn reports.
Trade is at the core of our modern economy, and some say it's hardwired into our DNA. According to the UN's latest figures, global merchandise trade is worth more than $16 trillion a year. Now, the industry at the heart of it is facing major concerns. This week, leaders from the shipping industry are meeting at the first ever Global Maritime Forum in Hong Kong.
Of particular concern for many, including Hong Kong, is a sudden spate of trade disputes, most notably between the world's two largest economies, the United States and China. A protracted trade logjam between them would undoubtedly squeeze cargo flow across seas.
The forum's report on the industry says the biggest risk comes from the trade war, and Chinese shipping firms are worried.
It's unfortunately happened, the trade war between US and China, and surely for shipping business, it's not good. It's not good.
It's no coincidence this inaugural session is being held in Hong Kong. Asia accounted for 64% of world container port throughput last year, according to the UN, which also said that China is the best connected trading nation in the world. But while the threat of the trade war hangs over the maritime industry, there's still some optimism. That's because the structure of trade flow is adapting to the crisis.
Trade patterns shift, so the goods are finding new ways to move, and we are there as a global, probably the biggest global integrator of logistics. So what we see is that the trade patterns change a little bit, and we don't see the impact on the overall trade volumes.
Whenever there are disruptions, there are inefficiencies, and sometimes those can be beneficial in terms of economics.
The economics may be fundamentally realigning. Where before trade may have flowed between the US and China, now some expect a so-called regionalization to happen. That would mean shorter, more land-based routes, the type being built through China's Belt and Road projects. But it may be at the expense of the maritime industry.
Now, in a way, Trump's tariffs wake up the world, and everybody is rethinking the routes. So you see, I think, yes, maybe I don't want to say they're burying their head, but the point is they've been so helpful, but the world is going in a different direction. It's a more regional thing.
The forum's first report on the industry also highlights other big risks. Chief among them are cybersecurity threats. Fuel costs and digital technologies, it reports, offer opportunities and challenges. But whatever happens, this may well be a turning point for sea trade. Joel Flynn, TRT World, Hong Kong.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On Point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung. Dissecting the issues, offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 57 stocks traded today, of which 35 advanced, 18 declined, and 4 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 1,123 points to close at over 371,000 points. The junior index advanced by 19 points to close at 3,400 points. Over 53 million units traded today, valued at over $476 million on the Jamaican dollar market, while on the US dollar market, more than 134,000 units traded, valued at over $30,000 US dollars. Carreras, with more than 46 million units trading, accounted for 87% of market volume. JMMB Group 7.5% VR JMD preference shares, with over 1.6 million units trading, was second. Siboney Group, with over 700,000 units trading, was third, accounting for 1% of market volume. The main advancers were 1834 Investments ordinary shares, up 13 cents to close at $1.16. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances ordinary shares, up $2 to close at $19. And Derimon Trading 2021 preference shares, up 26 cents to close at $2.51. The main decliners were Cargo Handlers, down $1.27 to close at $13.73, followed by Jamaica Broilers Group, down $2.68 to close at $28.18, and Sterling Investments ordinary shares, down $1.67 to close at $22.41. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar gained on the US and Canadian dollar, but lost to the British pound today. The US dollar ended the day trading for an average $134.02, losing 22 cents to the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar ended the day selling for $104.29, losing 75 cents to the Jamaican dollar, and the British pound sold for $175.75, gaining $1.91 on the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of our top story. The union representing the workers on Mandela Highway is questioning why it wasn't invited to a meeting between the government and China Harbour Engineering Company, CHEC. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.
On Point is brought to you by Growth Tech Limited.
Good evening and welcome to On Point. I'm your host, Kalila Reynolds.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
Well, Dennis, viewers, tonight we have William Mahfood joining us. He's the chairman of Wisynco. And, you know, it's so funny, Dennis, because there's so many issues that his company is in the middle of right now. You have the sugary ban, you have the whole discussion about the continuation of sugar with their acquisition of Worthy Park. You have plastics ban coming. So I'm sure he has a lot of stuff to
he's affected by. But you know, with all of this, the stock price continues to do well. The company continues to do well in terms of its results, because You know, this is how markets operate.
And because they've been adapting.
Yeah, they adapt. They're a well-run company. So, you know, I have no doubt that they'll deal with this one also.
Making changes well before the ban even comes into effect. So we'll hear a lot more from Mr. Mahfood later on in the program. But first, let's take a look back at some of the top business stories this week.
At number 5, the Irish Data Protection Commission has formally begun an investigation into Facebook's recent data breach. It will now decide whether the firm should be fined for failing to prevent hackers from being able to access up to 50 million users' accounts. Earlier this year, the social network picked the regulator to be its one-stop shop for oversight of its compliance with EU policy rules. In theory, the watchdog can fine the US firm up to 4% of its global turnover. At number 4, the Jamaica Stock Exchange JSE is outperforming the world again. That's according to Bloomberg News. The respected financial news outlet says the JSE has had the largest percentage of growth compared to about 90 other index markets around the world. Bloomberg places the JSE amongst the world's best performing equities markets for the last 5 years. At number 3, International Luxury All-Inclusive Palace Resorts has announced plans to design and build a new hotel in St. Anne. Palace Resorts is the operator of Moon Palace Jamaica Grand in Ocho Rios. The new 750-room project would be their second hotel in the parish. It follows their purchase of the rooms on the beach property in Ocho Rios. The $270 million project is expected to create 3,500 jobs. At number 2, the government has met with officials from China Harbour Engineering Company CHEC in light of an ongoing strike by workers on the Mandela Highway project. According to the statement from the Office of the Prime Minister, the government officials at the meeting noted that no formal complaint has been made to the Ministry of Labour about a dispute between the workers and CHEC. CHEC's management says they're complying with industry standards. They say the company will continue its work to ensure that the December deadline is met. And your top business story this week is on growth. The economy grew by 2.2% between April and June of this year compared to the same period last year. That's according to the latest data released by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin. It's even higher than the Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ had projected last month. The PIOJ had estimated growth for the quarter would be about 1.8%. It's also a marked improvement over the previous quarter's growth of 1.4%. The performance was led by a boom in the mining and quarrying industry, which grew by 31%. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing also continued to rebound, registering growth of 12% due to good weather.
And when we come back, we'll be joined by Mr. William Mahfood, chairman of Wisynco Group. Stay with us on Point.
GrowthTech is making connectivity like oxygen. Wherever you see the GrowthTech free Wi-Fi, feel free to connect. Watch, connect, and go, allowing you to chat, check, browse, and email securely. So when you're on the go and need to connect with friends, family, or a team member, or just stay updated, look for GrowthTech's free Wi-Fi. GrowthTech, making connectivity like oxygen.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Welcome back to On Point. On January 1, schools across the island will have to start providing healthier drinks for students. That's because the Ministry of Health will be implementing a ban on sugary drinks in schools.
One manufacturer has already responded. As of next month, Wisynco will no longer be selling sugary drinks to children in schools. Here's more on that.
Our next generation, our children, are suffering from an obesity epidemic, which is going to lead to significant health effects later on at our expense, but also at their and their families' expense and the future of the country's expense. And we need to do something about it, Mr. Speaker, and do something about it now.
Dr. Tufton said the ban will take effect in January 2019, when the government will implement a policy to restrict certain types of sugary drinks in schools.
By sugary drinks, we mean beverages that contain sugar or syrup that is added by the manufacturer, Mr. Speaker. It does not include, Mr. Speaker, 100% juice or unsweetened milk.
The health minister argued that the ban is necessary as the government increases efforts to reduce the incidences of non-communicable diseases in Jamaica.
Approximately 70% of Jamaican children consume one or more sugar-sweetened beverage per day, and 77% of our adults are as guilty or worse. They are the ones setting the example for our children. This, Mr. Speaker, is a serious problem. Consumption of one or more servings of sugar-sweetened beverages per day is associated with a 26% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. These are the facts, Mr. Speaker.
He notes that the Health Ministry, as well as the Education Ministry, will be meeting with manufacturers to discuss the policy before it is implemented. He urged manufacturers and distributors of these beverages to get on board with this policy. And today, Wisynco, the island's largest beverage manufacturer, did just that.
As of November 1st, Wisynco will not sell any products from its portfolio to any preparatory, primary, or secondary school which has more than 6 grams of added sugar per 100 milliliter serving. What does this mean? It means that in anticipation and in preparation for the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education's new school policy, Wisynco will preempt and also ensure that we focus on healthy products for our children. So we will continue to sell water, we will continue to sell products like cran water, 100% juices without any sugar added, and low sugar or zero sugar products.
Mr. Mahfood says as a beverage company, Wisynco has a part to play in reducing obesity levels among Jamaicans.
We also understand that obesity is a very complex problem, and it's caused by several different factors. As a total beverage company now, Wisynco recognizes that we can play a vital role towards a reduction of obesity and the solutions to reduce obesity in our society.
He says the company has received the support of its 3 major concessionaire partners to implement the new policy.
And we're joined now by the chairman of Wisynco, William Mahfood. Welcome back to On Point.
Thank you, Kalila, and Dennis, great to be here again.
And William will be joining us for the entire program on a number of different issues, but we start with sugar.
Yeah. William, this ban on sugar drinks in school, what was your response to that?
Well, I mean, you know, let me give you a little bit of history. So as a company, Wisynco had suspended sales of sugar with drinks with added sugar to primary schools and preparatory schools back in about 2015. So we already had a very aggressive schools policy. It was in discussions with the Ministry of Health over the past year that we have now adopted what is the technically correct approach, which is sugar drinks with 6 grams or more of added sugar per 100 milliliter serving.
So where did that standard originate?
This is something that we, as an industry, along with the Ministry of Health, we have been in discussion now for the last, I would say, 6 months. It was born out of the ministry's food industry task force, which Dennis, of course, you know about from private sector.
I was a member.
Right, you were a member, and I sat in a couple of those meetings. Yes. So in discussion and sort of negotiations, this was, I think, the first phase, which is 6 grams per 100 milliliter serving. And then we move, I think, within 2 years to 5 grams. And these are added sugars. What that means is beverages that are natural fruit juices or 100% juice with no added sugars, those will be allowed to be sold. Water, flavored waters, beverages with low or no sugar will be allowed to be sold. we wanted to take the initiative and say, listen, we've already started this practice in primary and preparatory schools, so we're going to roll it out November 1st across all schools.
So that means most of your sodas won't be sold in schools?
Right, so the only sodas that they will be sold at this point, as of November 1st, will be products like the zero sugar Coke or Diet Coke, anything like that that has no sugar in it.
But based on your market intelligence, William, is most of the drinks or the so-called sugar drinks actually sold at schools, or is it outside?
No, let me tell you, I mean, we actually looked at the numbers recently. So if you look at the high sugar drinks like the sodas or the belly wash type products, they represent probably about 35 to 40% of our sales in schools. Most of what we sell is water, the flavored waters, which are those all would comply with the requirements of the ministry. And as well, the natural juices, True Juice, for example, which are 100% juice. Let me tell you where there's a problem. And I think this was borne out in the last couple of weeks in the media. You have these bag drinks. We don't sell bag drinks, which are basically sugar and water. If you go across Jamaica, that is the primary beverage because of the price point that many children consume in schools. Most of it, you know, they're like a $20 or $10 suck, they call it, kids call it. And those are really very high in sugar. Now, regulating that group of producers or manufacturers is going to be a lot more challenging, I think, for the Ministry of Education and Health.
But that is something, William, from when I was on the task force, that we have been talking to them about that.
Yeah.
So how come there's no action on that?
Well, I think what they're going to have to do is enforce it in the schools themselves. Right. So at the point of, you know, at the school gate or within the confines of the school, they're going to have to find a way to ensure that the children aren't going to be sold those products.
But on the issue of price, and you made a good point that a lot of children have the suck because it's a lot cheaper than the other products. And the same goes for your True Juice versus other types of drinks with more sugar added. So do you find that being a challenge, that because the price is higher, the students might still
I think this is where the economics now comes to play, in that when you think of a $20 bag drink for a child in a primary school, where there are, you know, very limited calories that child is going to get during the course of the day. And similarly with the bulla, you know, the bulla and the bag drink provided by the Nutritional Products Limited, I think. Those products, in many cases, might be the only sole source of calories that the child gets in a day. Children need calories for exercise and all of that. Now, if the Ministry of Health finds alternatives and what are going to be, you know, calories that are better for you, then that's great. And I think, and we support that. But at the end of the day, the kids need calories, they need rehydration. And if, in many cases, if there's not good, clean water coming into the school, then the kids are going to be forced to pay a higher price for products like the juices, 100% juices. Many of them can't afford it.
And that's a very important point with them, because it's a discussion I was having the other day with someone, that people who can't afford to buy the good calorie intake they need, children actually burn off a lot of those things that they consume because of the sports and all of that. So
today's children who are obsessed with their devices?
Well, more they burn off more than us, right? But the point is,
they metabolize it fast,
right?
For sure.
Well, that's true.
How are there any plans to replace that sort of thing?
Well, listen, I mean, that really is the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education. And, you know, the truth is, I've even said, you know, sort of tongue-in-cheek to the Minister of Health, that if you look at the impact of cellular phones and video games and technology on students and young people, I think that actually has more to do with the increases in obesity and childhood obesity. Because as kids, when we were growing up and we didn't have cell phones, we were outside playing box ball and cricket and, you know, all sorts of physical activities.
All of those things.
And we drank all of those things. So I think what we need to do is, we support the minister's Jamaica Moves campaign. I think it's a great initiative. We need more focus on education around active lifestyle for young people.
Now, last time you were on this program, you were here with Dr. Alfred Dawes.
Correct.
And you thought that sugar was basically getting a bad rap, that there are other, well, sugary drinks were getting a bad rap.
Yeah.
There are other forms of sugar, such as in the rice and the starches,
Correct.
that should be targeted as well. You still feel that way?
I don't necessarily feel that you should target any food group. I think what we need to do is we need to create awareness around what are healthy and balanced nutritional, makeup of our diet. And we do, as Jamaicans, eat some very, very healthy and nutritious things, but at the same time, we also eat a lot of very poor, high fat, high salt, high sugar products or high carbohydrates that are, like rice and flour. We need to have, I think, a focus on really making young people aware about what is nutrition, and it has to be in the context of what the economics of our average consumer can manage.
Yeah, and that I think is one of the main things to look at, the whole matter of economics, because the truth is that a lot of people cannot afford to do without a lot of these things,
Right.
Because I mean they're convenient.
Yeah.
They're priced properly.
Yeah.
And really, shouldn't the focus be, as you said, on behavioral changes more than anything else?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, and it's funny, I was just talking earlier to some friends outside, and I was speaking about, years ago, I think you may have been at a breakfast with me where the then Minister of Education mentioned a statistic. There was a rural high school with a school feeding program, and attendance on the 2 days a week that they had free lunches was substantially higher because the kids got the free lunch, so they came to school. We need to really be cognizant about the balance in between, what is in the health required, the nation's health, as well as what are the challenges, the economic challenges that people face. We have to be careful about balancing that.
So you're making the changes for schools and only selling the low sugar and no sugar added content for school. But what about the rest of society? What about the rest of us? What are you doing to reduce sugar content in your other products?
So we have a whole program we're undertaking. We've already rolled out products like Sprite, for example. Many people wouldn't even recognize that we've reduced the sugar content in Sprite by 25%. We're coming out, about to launch a whole range of like cranberry flavored water type products, carbonated, which will have zero and low sugar alternatives. And then we're going to also be looking at, I think before the end of this year, we'll do reformulations on our bigger soft drinks with 30% less sugar as well. So we're making those changes. But as we've spoken to the various people in the ministry, those things take time. It's not to reformulate a whole series of products to make sure that you have to ensure that they taste good at the same time that they're they're viable in terms of shelf life, and the technical work that goes into it takes some time.
So what type of time you're looking at?
I think before the end of this year, you'll see a number of new products that we will roll out in initiatives, including, as I said, the carbonated flavored waters with low and zero sugar, as well as reduced sugar, bigger soft drinks.
And I mean, companies like National and Lasco had already announced some initiatives also.
Yes.
So the industry is moving in that direction.
There's no question. I mean, we're all being pressured on as a food and consumer products to be more healthy, health conscious, and aware of what it is that we're putting in our products. We also we're really working hard and aggressively to adjust our nutritional panel requirements. And we've had, up to just a couple of weeks ago, very, very intense meetings with the Bureau of Standards. Because one of the things that we need to do is we need to ensure that when people go to pick up a product, that they know what's in it.
Yeah.
So things like added sugar versus total sugars, people need to know that this product has X amount of grams per serving of added sugar or added salt. A lot of foods have a lot of added salt. You know, it's used, sugar and salts are used, and fats, for extending shelf life. It's one thing in packaged goods.
The issue of salt, William, isn't salt just as dangerous or even more dangerous than the sugar in terms of...
I can't really answer. I'm not a nutritionist. I can't answer that one. But I mean, you know, Jamaican people have a tendency to be both diabetic and hypertensive. So I guess we eat too much sugar and salt as a nation, yeah.
and then the matter of taste, because that is a challenge also, because I mean, with the best intention in the world, I mean, the manufacturers can say, well, we're going to try and change this thing. But the fact is that unless you control the other things like the suck and salt there, it's going to be difficult to change the taste.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's really, you know, you want to ensure acceptability. There are health issues, there are shelf life issues. So there's many factors that go into developing some of these products. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's good. I think coming out of all of this, and I think we have come to realize, is that we have a more aware consumer. Yeah. And I think if we keep the discussion going, but in a very positive way, then I think we will have, you know, consumers just more understanding of how to read labels, how to provide better choices for their children. That's what I think is the benefit of all of this.
You know, speaking of all this sugar, you also have a deal that the company recently announced with Worthy Park Sugar Estates. Yes. Tell us some more about that.
So what happened is our parent company, which is the holding company for the family, had done an equity investment. We acquired 30% of Worthy Park. They're the largest sugar producer in Jamaica and probably the only profitable one for the last maybe 50 years. And as a part of that transaction, Wisynco Group, the local public company, will have distribution rights for their local sugar as well as for their spirits. So, you know, and it's funny because on the one hand we have, you know, one minister who's pushing to try and sustain a local sugar industry, and we have another minister who is sort of trying to push the reduction in consumption of sugar. The truth is that sugar is vital to Jamaica. The sugar production is vital to Jamaica. And it's an industry that's under threat. A lot of people ask me the question, why would you get into this now when so many companies are struggling?
Same question I was about to ask.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that it's a profitable company. There needs to be some right sizing in the industry. We currently have, I think it's currently 4 factories still in production. We have the Pan Caribbean in Westmoreland. We have Worthy Park in Yuatan. We have Duck and Field in St. Thomas. I forget the name of the factory. And then there is Appleton. What is going to have to happen is that the total production of sugar is going to have to eventually come into 1 or 2 factories, or 3 maybe, which will then become more efficient. I mean, you know, Dennis, as an accountant, you will understand. The throughput will increase in those factories to make them more competitive. You'll have more scale. That will make those factories productive and profitable, and allow for them to stay alive.
But you'll still be depending mostly on the local market's consumption, not so much for export, because that market is pretty much non-existent for the Caribbean right now.
World export prices for sugar, because we no longer have preferential treatment, are hovering around $400 a ton. Jamaica, to sell raw sugar to refineries, would have to sell it at $300 a ton, which is below the cost of production. So the combination of local market, some specialized arrangements with, you know, they can sell on a quota to the United States, and maybe CARICOM can protect the remaining production. If we don't have a sound, solid local market, then whatever production is left will be wiped out.
But Worthy Park is maybe the most profitable.
It's the only, I think it's the only profitable
one. No.
Appleton probably is as well because of the blend between their rum and sugar. But yeah, Worthy Park would be the most profitable in sugar production.
On the matter of the sugar, though, William, I mean, I know a little bit about it, and I know that one of the reasons why Money Musk, which is the only Pan-Caribbean one operating now, is more viable than a Money Musk.
No, Frome, you mean Frome.
Frome,
yes,
Frome, right. Frome is more viable than a Money Musk or a Bernard Lodge. It's because it has a closer proximity to farmers, isn't that so?
And so the transportation is a big cost for the inputs for the farmer.
And that's why you said there has to be some consolidation.
Correct.
But there are certain locations that they're just never going to be viable because of that cost.
All right, so this is one of the things. I know that there has been many discussions on this topic. What is going to have to happen is that rather than the government subsidizing the actual factories to remain open, which is very costly, and you know over the years how much it has cost us as a country, they're going to have to look at possibly subsidizing farmers and transportation. So a farmer, for example, in Clarendon, when, once that Money Musk factory is closed, which I think it's pretty much closed now, he can transport his cane to Appleton in St. Elizabeth, or he can transport it to Yuaton to Worthy Park. The transportation cost is what the government should help him with, so that he can not lose money on the production of cane.
Well, you would say that because you now have an interest in Worthy Park.
No, it makes sense.
No. If otherwise, you're going to lose those small farmers who are, in many of those communities, they're sort of the backbone of the community.
Yeah, because you see, if you subsidize the factory and you don't subsidize the farmer eventually goes.
Yeah.
And then it means productivity gets affected, and
you have low levels of productivity costing much more
to do it that way.
to the operators of the factory, and then ultimately the government. That's what has happened in the past. As our sugar, Jamaica used to produce 250,000 tons of sugar a year. We produce now less than 100,000 tons.
Yeah.
No, sorry. About less than 100,000. So our production has gone like this. Now imagine if you have a factory that's geared to produce, in the case of, let's say, like St. Thomas, used to be, I think, produce 40,000 tons, and it's producing 5,000. It can't make money. The cost of production per ton is going to kill it. So those farmers who are growing cane in St. Thomas, they have to have an output to put their cane in for production.
But William, that sort of strategic look, the government has never really looked at it that way. Their solution is like the minister saying, produce as much as you want and we'll buy everything.
Right. I think they're starting to come around, because now they realize that the cheapest way forward is going to be just maintaining a number of factories, keep, right size, the industry has the right size. Yeah. And then putting in place some sort of a minimal subsidy for the transportation.
All right, let's take a break here. We come back with more On Point.
Brings the creative industries to life. Highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo. Only on Business Access TV. Having a corporate event, seminar, awards show, conference, product launch, workshop, or expo? Business Access TV is here to showcase your event. Contact our sales department at 908-0919, 906-6357, or 908-2775 for more information. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Welcome back to On Point. We're speaking with the chairman of Wisynco, William Mahfood. We've been talking sugar so far. A little bit later on, we're going to be talking about plastic as well. You said during the break that you feel like you have a bullseye on your back because everything.
No, I think our industry in many areas has become very, very at the forefront of sort of environmental and health issues, and so, yeah. But as a company, we're very, very focused on the environment and health, and so I think even though it seems as if we're a target, I know that we're really not. I think it's just more a general sort of focus on those issues.
Yeah, and you're taking the right steps.
Correct.
Yeah, you're taking the right steps.
Before we hit that environmental thing, okay, I have an interest in it too. On the sugar thing, we were talking to Alan Rickards about a week ago or so.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And he made the statement, and it's an amazing statement coming from him as the head of the Cane Growers Association, that this is the last chance for the sugar industry to organize itself properly for survival. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. And as I said earlier, I think it has to be right-sized. There's going to be fallout in the production.
It was the same term he used, right-sized.
Yeah, it has to be. I think everybody sees that now, and the government cannot afford to subsidize 3 factories or 2 factories at the expense of, an indefinite period of time. Yeah. So once that right sizing takes place, all that will be required of the government in the future is some transportation subsidy for the farmers who are outside of the areas where the factories that are remaining are left. I think that when that happens, you'll have a smaller industry, but one that can be self-sustaining.
A few weeks ago as well, the Sugar Association of the Caribbean, SAC, sent out a statement saying that, well, CARICOM can rescue the region's sugar industry if you just use our sugar in products like the ones that you manufacture. Is that feasible?
Yes. When I say yes, meaning we can convert brown sugar, and as a matter of fact, we're going to start looking at now that we have an interest in a sugar factory, looking at modeling the conversion of brown sugar into use rather than direct consumption, but into use as raw material. I know that it's going to be some capital investment. I think down the road, if the industry does right size, what will end up happening is more of the sugar produced in Jamaica will go to direct consumption, which gets the highest price. That will allow for some of that product to then go into raw material as input into the manufacturing process.
But wouldn't that be more expensive to use the brown sugar? Because you and I have been talking about this for a couple of weeks already, and you made the point back then that that sugar is just cheaper to import the refined white sugar from abroad.
It is. And the reason for that, Kalila, is that if you look at the large economies where sugar is produced, like in Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala, they produce refined sugar at somewhere around $400 a ton delivered to Jamaica. Jamaica's cost of production on brown sugar is higher than that. So imagine, as a producer of goods, whether it's a National Continental, Pepsi, or Wisynco, having to have an input of local sugar at a much, much higher price, we would be subsidizing the local sugar producers.
But let me ask you, William, coming back to the argument on the sugary drinks, it costs you less to actually reduce the amount of sugar in drinks when you produce, or?
Well, sugar is one of the largest ingredients or inputs into the product. The sugar, as I said, it plays a role in carbonated drinks. It plays a role in sustaining the longer shelf life.
You have to replace that ingredient with something else,
if you do replace it, also what happens is if you take sugar out and put in an artificial sweetener, what you end up with is also a different mouthfeel.
Tastes different.
It's less, there's less volume. The sugar gives the drink more body. So, I mean, this is years and years and years of product development that has to go through, again, it's a cycle.
Is the artificial sweetener cheaper or more expensive than sugar?
They work out about the same. There's not that much difference.
So the cost doesn't really change?
It's not really material to the cost of the product, no. But it does have, it has a technical component to the taste and feel of the product, which is really where the challenge is.
Let's move on to the plastic issue.
Sure.
Another hot button topic right now. With Cinco, you're affected via the styrofoam products that you produce. And then there's also this talk about the PET bottles and what's going to happen with that. Right. Let's start with the styrofoam issue.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, about 2 weeks ago, the government announced that there were going to be a pending ban on styrofoam, plastic bags, straws. The ban, it was intended that the ban would take effect on January 1st, 2019 for all straws except those to be used in Tetra Pak production, which we also actually are the largest producer of those products.
What's Tetra Pak?
It's a little box drinks that kids
get. And you just take the straw. Okay.
So there was an immediate ban in January 2019 on straws other than those, as well as on all plastic bags, single-use plastic bags below a certain size, and imported styrofoam. Then there was going to be an exemption for locally manufactured styrofoam projected to 2020, and we have had indication from the minister that he would give an additional year to 2021 on the manufacturing of styrofoam. Now, one of the things that, we took some exception to it, not that we are opposed to making these moves. We feel that, as a matter of fact, some years ago we announced we were starting to look at recycle or biodegradable materials and so forth. So we're still continuing in those developments. But the time period within which to right-size an industry, especially one as big as ours in Jamaica, unlike some of the smaller Caribbean states, they have no local production. So for them, it wasn't really much of a change to convert immediately. Exactly. In our case, Jamaica has a number of producers of plastic bags. We have a number of we're the only producer of styrofoam in boxes. But so in order to right size and convert all of that to be done within a short period of time is going to be difficult. Dennis, you sat on a committee, the plastics committee, which was chaired by Paris. And he and the committee came up with a specific set of recommendations, a 5-year implementation, and that would include, doing environmental impact studies, education awareness, looking at the economics of it, putting in place financing for local manufacturers to be able to retool. And then finally, legislation would require, like they said, 2 years.
So where does this timeline come from then? Because, I mean, it doesn't seem practical.
Yeah.
It's quite probable that it will not be implementable.
Yeah, right? No, and I mean, even if you call NEPA, the hotline that they've sent out just in the last week, they don't have any technical details on the whole announcement. I mean, there's up to this point in time, we have asked, and I don't think that there is any drafting of any legislation. To have this implemented for January 2019, to me, seems unrealistic.
I mean, because what this does, William, one of the effects of it, I mean, we were speaking in the break about the whole Carreras thing also, right? But one of the things that has happened with the policies that were put in place on some of these products, and I fear will happen with the sugary drinks also, and also the plastics, is that because the policy, in many respects, the implementation is so impractical, you create a huge black market of products that are even worse for you because of how they're manufactured, isn't that so?
And because there are no standards.
Yeah.
And no regulation.
But you know, Dennis, and I speak about this now from a private sector point of view as an investor, you also put a lot of uncertainty and concern in investors' minds about how is policy established. And I just consider for a minute, imagine if somebody had put a factory 6 months ago, invested $50 million US in a brand new state-of-the-art facility with the intention to grow for the next whatever number of years. How would that person feel if all of a sudden you came with this new,
with a 4-month timeline for a ban?
It's impractical. And I think, we've, up till just today, we had discussions with our main organization related to manufacturing, the GMEA, and the president and ourselves had a long discussion about it. And I think we have come to the realization that we have got to, as a country, hold accountable the leadership to put sound policy in place. That's the most important thing. And make sure that when these types of decisions happen, they come from a point. And this report, which the Plastic Committee put out, was a very, very detailed, solid, detailed report on what the recommendations. They spoke about, the various organizations within government that would have to have sort of be prepared for this implementation. None of that is in place. Yeah.
But I've heard representatives from the government say that, well, it's not just coming out of the blue. These discussions have been going on for, what, 2 years now? No, the government had announced, well, the motion was initially put into the Senate by Senator Samuda. That was back in 2017. And so you really have about a year and a half. But the committee was established in mid-2017. The report from the committee came out in, I think, early this year. Yeah, so about maybe, I don't remember exactly, but early in 2018. The recommendations from that report weren't even circulated into the industry. So the type of what they call consultation, and Dennis is familiar with how the consultation went at the Food Industry Task Force. Yeah. It's really not so much consultation as it is things being pushed down on an industry. And that's really what kind of happened here as well. Did it catch you off guard? No, it was, well, yes, they caught us off guard from the timeline and the impracticality of implementation. But insofar as they are preparing for it, no, we have taken a decision that we're very much likely to be out of styrofoam within a couple of years anyway. We're looking for the alternatives and product that we can use, whether it was bagasse or paperboard or whatever, and the technology that would be required. But those things take time. To repurpose an entire factory is going to take time, takes years.
And I mean, I can support you on that, William, because from the point of view of NSWMA, we know that you have one of the biggest eco programs around. Correct. In terms of packaging and that sort of thing. Yeah. And you've been out in schools also. No, we've been doing a lot. WISINCO has the corporate challenge, the eco corporate challenge, and we have the schools challenge. As an organization, we have led the national recycling dialogue and discourse, so much so that we presented the day before the partnership with a proposal to put in a deposit refund scheme. So for all plastic bottles going forward, we're actually the ones who led that discussion with the government to look at a deposit refund scheme, which would be self-financing to bring back the plastic bottles. Explain what you mean by a deposit refund scheme. Okay, so every single bottle of product like water, Coke, or any of these products, there would be on the label a dollar figure. It could be $5, it could be $2, whatever that figure is agreed to. And when a consumer buys the product, just like with a beer bottle where there's a $10 deposit, when the consumer buys the product, there will be a charge a dollar figure charge on that purchase, and then they'll be able to take those bottles to any depot or collection center and get back the funds. Like what used to happen when we had sodas in glass bottles. Correct. Yeah, and so it's the same concept. I remember that because I was on that committee also. Correct. Right? That's correct. when you agreed. I wonder how you did any work without it. But where is that right now, William? So we have the proposal. It's been accepted by the environmental groups, JET, and a number of other groups. We also had Capri, who had done a study. They also participated in the discussion around the proposal, and we presented to the partnership 3 weeks ago, the Prime Minister and the various ministries. They've accepted it in principle. We actually have a meeting tomorrow at the GMEA where we will discuss the working groups and the details about setting up. We're proposing to start for next year, October. The deposit refund system? Yeah. So that what will happen is there's going to be a drive to clean up all the bottles in the environment first, and then starting next year, October, which will give the manufacturers time to put on
you'll have to put something on the label. The dollar figure will be put on the label. Eventually, the intention is to get to a point where consumers can go to the supermarket and stick their bottle into a machine, and they will get a ticket, it'll be like a reverse vending machine. So that's the intention. That's where we want to get.
So how it works is that if it's $5, for example, the price will go up by $5, but then you can get back that $5.
You get back the $5 when you
by returning the bottle.
By returning the bottle. Correct.
Bottle.
It's a closed loop.
Right.
And our intention is to get to 80% collection within 5 years if we can, which is very, very aggressive, but we're putting a very aggressive target there.
And then what happens to the bottles? They're recycled, reused?
Yeah, so there's one producer already in Jamaica who is going to take the material and convert it into roofing tiles. We have had discussion with them about supplying them with the material. We're also going to be looking at bringing in equipment into the island which will take the recycled material, convert it back into the raw material to reuse it in bottle production.
And you're also a huge financial supporter of Jamaica Recycling.
Correct.
Partners, right?
So Recycle Partners of Jamaica is an industry initiative that is sponsored basically by the industry as well as the government. So our environmental footprint, I know, you know, people look at us as being the producer of all of these things, but we're very, very focused on finding ways to improve the environment.
Yeah, so Dennis, that's where NSWMA comes in. What's the capacity for recycling plastic right now, do you know?
Well, the biggest recycler right now is Recycling Partners of Jamaica. But the biggest challenge, I don't think there's a capacity issue in terms of the recycling. The biggest challenge is really the collection, and the deposit refund system should help.
Yeah, and what you need is you need an incentive for consumers to return the bottles. Right now, people and education is a big part of it. So one of the things that we're going to do is in the collection system with the deposit refund scheme, there will be a surplus from the deposit in the first few years. A substantial amount of that money will go into education. Currently, Recycle Partners does about 100 million bottles a year. And the estimate is that it's between 600 and 700 million bottles that go into the environment every year. So if you think for a minute, let's say at $2 a bottle, that surplus is $1 billion a year. A lot of it will now go to build out the infrastructure, put the trucks that will do the collection and the depots. There's a couple of things we have asked the government to participate in. We want them to give us the pieces of land around the island to create depots, small depots, collection centers in, you know, Chapelton, in Clarendon, and in Gale, in St. Mary, or whatever. So make it easy for people initially to come and give their bottles back. And secondly, legislate and mandatory participation by all producers to come into this, because if some producers aren't involved, then the whole thing will fall apart. And then finally, at the ports, any PET bottles that come into the island to collect from those importers, and then those funds go into Recycle Partners who will do the collection and the distribution and so forth.
So it's a real closed loop system, because
the intention is,
so when it goes out, it comes in and then it's recycled or used in manufacturing, like the roof.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct.
You said.
Recycle Partners is a private company?
A not-for-profit.
Right. Funded by.
Not-for-profit.
You're the largest funder.
Ourselves, Pepsi, Lasco, Grace, and the government of Jamaica, and a number of other small producers, but those are the four main ones.
Yeah, and what sort of volume do they take in every year?
Currently over 100 million bottles a year. So they do a substantial amount now. We built a depot out by Lakes Pen, next door to our facility. That's going to have to be expanded. So there's a lot of money that's going to be required initially to capitalize the organization to be able to deal with the increased numbers. If the incentive is high enough, more people are going to want to return the bottles.
Yeah.
We'll create like micro enterprise, small businesses all over Jamaica
gathering the bottles.
Who will be gathering bottles to bring them into collection.
So William, before we break then, if you can quickly tell us then, what would be your approach to implementing this ban then? I mean,
on the styrofoam and plastics?
Yeah.
I think that just following the recommendations of the Plastic Committee. I mean, Senator Samuda was a part of that committee. You were a part of the committee. And I think that there's very, very well thought out and dictates on what is the government's responsibility. Whether they want to do it in three years or 5 years, as I said, I think we'll be out of styrofoam before the 5 years anyway. But I think it's important to ensure, you have proper practices when you're doing these kind of things.
Always good to have you on, William Mahfood. All the best.
Thanks, William.
All the best. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have the numbers and your word on the street.
Growth Tech is making connectivity like oxygen. Wherever you see the Growth Tech free Wi-Fi, feel free to connect. Watch, connect, and go, allowing you to chat, check, browse, and email securely. So when you're on the go and need to connect with friends, family, or a team member, or just stay updated, look for Growth Tech's free Wi-Fi. Growth Tech, making connectivity like oxygen.
We're taking you beyond our shores, across the region and around the world. Every week, BATV gives you in-depth reporting on the major stories that gripped headlines in the Caribbean and on the international scene. Join us Sundays for This Week Abroad. Business Access TV, serious about business at home and abroad.
Weekend Business Report. Economic windfall.
Unsecured loans.
Alleged corruption.
Follows the closure. If they made this investment.
Brokers
strive to increase revenues.
He sought some answers.
Financial meltdown.
Here are the week's final
Here's
numbers.
Garth.
News Roundup.
Camille, it's back to you.
That's Weekend Business Report with me, Keneal Gale. Saturdays and Sundays.
Welcome back to On Point. Sugar, obesity, non-communicable diseases, they're all part of a slippery slope costing the country millions of dollars each year. Here are the numbers.
An estimated 60% of Jamaicans are estimated to be overweight. That's more than half the population, or 6 out of every 10 people. What's worse, 1 of every 3 Jamaicans is obese. That's 33%. It's having a heavy impact on the nation's health bill because of the cost to treat non-communicable diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart conditions. According to Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, it will cost the public an estimated $77 billion to treat NCDs over the next 15 years. According to a 2008 survey, an estimated 150,000 Jamaicans were said to suffer from type 2 diabetes. It's believed that number has grown significantly. A typical 20-ounce soda has 250 calories and over 67 grams of sugar. That's 17 teaspoons. It's nearly twice the amount of added sugar that the American Heart Association recommends for an adult man in a day. 9 teaspoons, and nearly 3 times the amount recommended for women, 6 teaspoons.
And our On Point team hit the streets and asked Jamaicans, how will you carry your items when the ban on plastic bags takes effect?
Well, I guess you just have to carry your personal shopping bag then.
Yeah, what kind of in your hand or you get paper bag and put your goods, you know?
Well, I'm gonna take a bag, a shopping bag.
Well, I don't know how I go around that car for them system. You understand? Anything then come, you have to just go and work with it, you understand?
I have to buy a market bag or a cardboard box. I have to buy.
Well, before the plastic bag, there was paper bag. So unless they have to put back the paper bag in place, if they're going to remove the plastic bag, there must be a substitute.
Whatever the government puts in place, I'll be willing to work with it because I think it's a good idea.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Interesting answers there, Dennis. I was waiting for somebody to say on their head top. What you gonna do? You gonna buy the reusable bags?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I will do. You know.
I've had them in my car for like months, you know, and I just always forget to take them out when I'm at the supermarket.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. But a lot of the reusable bags also are plastic. You know, I guess that.
But they're not single use, so that's the difference.
But the normal scandal bags are not really just one use either, you know.
That's
People use them many times, they save them, they use them for other things.
For garbage in particular.
Right, and carrying things generally also. You know, so I think that the real issue that we have is how we actually dispose of our garbage, because it's not going to be plastic, but unless we do something about that, and what the government needs to also focus on is ensuring that the legislation for the increased fines actually go through, because you'll be driving by and someone and they just throw something on the road.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of that
But
happens,
I like what
refrigerators, old stoves, everything.
I like what William was saying about the how you call it, bottle deposit refund scheme. I think that's going to incentivize people to bring in their what normally would be garbage, the plastic bottles. It's not just soda bottles. They have juice bottles. They have all kind of bottles.
And youngsters out there will make money like they did in the old days. You know, remember the bottle police? You know, so I think that's a very good thing. I think that the industry, the initiatives that the industry has also taken, including this deposit system, they've actually closed the loop. You know, because they also have a recycling facility that they fund. They have an eco program. I know Wisynco in particular has a very strong eco program out there. NSLME actually works with them. So they're actually doing a lot already, you know, to close that loop. I think it's behavioral changes in terms of how we dispose of our garbage.
Yeah, and people will be less likely to just fling it through the window if they can collect some money for it.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, so that's our show for this week. I want to thank you for joining us yet another week. Thanks to our hardworking production team, our sponsors, and you, our viewers. I'm Kalila Reynolds.
And I'm Dennis Chung. Until next week.
On Point was brought to you by Growth Tech Limited.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better